In this video, we'll create a sketch of a lion using Derwent Graphitint pencils. Graphitint pencils made by Derwent are a unique drawing medium since it consists of graphite that's been tinted. Traditional graphite, of course, is gray, but these graphite pencils have pigment added to them, adding a bit of color. They can also be activated with water, making them quite unique. In this demonstration, we'll do a drawing of a lion, and we'll start by coloring in some of the dark areas around the eye. I'm going to start with a dark blue color, and in the Graphitint line, this color is referred to as dark indigo. I'm going to create a natural black here. Instead of going straight to the black pencil, we will be using a black pencil later on, but we're going to start off with layering dark blue and dark brown. And the dark brown that I'm layering here is actually referred to as cool brown. And then in the iris portion of the eye, I'll layer over the top with a bit of sage. Now we're ready to do our first activation, and as I mentioned earlier, Graphitint pencils can be activated with water. I'm going to add just a bit of water using a nylon brush, and what you'll notice is that the color activates much like it would with watercolor pencils. These of course are not watercolor pencils, instead made up of graphite. It's mostly akin to using water-soluble graphite, except, of course, the colors are tinted with the color. Another considerable difference here is that when these colors are spread over the surface using the brush, there's much more control with the Graphitint pencils than you would see in traditional watercolor pencils. We'll continue to work downward the front side of the nose here, adding a bit of the color chestnut. And we're going to try to make directional marks that will mimic the way the hair grows on the face of the lion, pulling them outward. Now, you can allow some of the textural marks produced by the pencil to show through your finished work if you want. This is an added versatility to this medium. You'll also notice that the paper I'm working on is heavily textured. In this case, I'm working on a 140-pound watercolor paper, and this is cold press paper. Now I'll go back again with the cool brown and make some areas a bit darker before activating. Again, we haven't quite started to use the black at this point, but we will eventually. Now we're ready to activate these colors, and you can see how much the color does change when water is added to it. We'll make our brush strokes in a similar direction as we made our pencil marks, pulling outward, creating the illusion of natural looking hair. Since we've layered several different colors in areas, those colors will naturally mix when they're activated. One noticeable characteristic of this medium is that once colors are activated, they're brilliant and bold. Over time, as they begin to dry, they start to fade a bit. It's important to keep this in mind as you use the medium, because you might have to make several applications in an area to make the color as brilliant as you'd like it to be. Next, we're going to use a bit of the color sage, which is actually a yellow-green, and this will mix with the colors on the surface and create a natural-looking yellow. A limitation to the Graphitint pencils is because they are mixed with graphite, some of the colors are not available. For example, looking at the set, you'll find that there's no yellow, there's also no true red. Instead, most of the colors are earth tone based, so you'll have to be a bit creative with the colors that you use. Now we're ready to start getting a bit darker in areas, so we'll pull out the black. And the name of the color itself is Midnight Black. Since it is a graphite pencil, it's not totally black, so the black it produces is not overwhelming. But it is a good idea to lay down some color initially and then adjust the value of that color by adding black on top. Now we're ready to activate the applications that we have on the surface. We'll start with the activations around the eye. Just how far you want to smooth out the texture underneath is completely up to you. You may find some areas of your drawing require a lot of activation, meaning smoothing out the texture of the pencil completely, while others may be left with some of the texture showing through, and in other areas maybe you just leave the marks produced by the pencil. We'll create a bit of a pink tint on the nose, and we'll need to be a bit creative here, so we'll use the color Autumn Brown. since it's the closest color to red that we have. We'll apply a bit of the color chestnut to both sides of the snout of the lion. We'll allow this color to fade as it gets closer to the center. We'll also put a bit of this color underneath the mouth. Around the edges of the face of the lion, we'll make broader strokes to help mimic the illusion of the mane. Again, we're using the color chestnut initially. Because the color and value of the hair will be a bit darker and more intense around the face, we'll put a bit more pressure on the pencil as we apply it in these locations. Now we'll darken up portions of the snout. Here again, we'll want to create a more natural looking black, so we'll start with dark indigo. Again, we'll layer over the top of that with cool brown. Now we're ready to activate these areas with water. The intensity of the color can also be adjusted by the amount of water that you use. More water will produce lighter values. Less water will leave the color a bit more intense. Just like with watercolor painting, we're depending on the white of the paper to be the white within the drawing. Therefore, when we add more water with the application, the value produced will be lighter. As we activate the colors in the nose, you'll see that the autumn brown that we put there is not exactly a red color, but it translates nicely for the nose of the lion. With a bit of the Graphitint material on the brush, it can be pulled in other locations as well, creating light applications. With just a small amount of water on our brush, we can pull down the color underneath the mouth to create the illusion of hair. These subtle changes in contrast and value will go a long way to create that illusion. Moving onward, we're ready to activate the colors around the mane. Here again, we'll pull the brush strokes outward to help mimic the illusion of hair. You can clearly see that in areas where we heavily applied the Graphitint pencil, once activated, the color remains strong and brilliant. We'll activate a fair amount of the material on the surface, but we will still allow some of the pencil strokes to show through. Now we're ready to apply some of the color russet, which will add a layer of dimension to the outside portion of the mane. This color will translate as somewhat of a brownish yellow color once activated. We'll also add this color to portions of the face as well. When we activate this color, we can see that there is a slight contrast between the chestnut color that we previously added and the russet color. Since we made broad strokes with our pencil as we apply the material, we'll make broad strokes with the brush as we pull the color out. We'll also activate the areas of russet that we added to the face as well. For added contrast, we'll start to darken up some of the areas of darker value around the mane. Again, we'll use midnight black for this, but we're using the black only after we've got a bit of color on the surface. This will make the value of the color on the surface darker rather than that area becoming overwhelmed with the black application. In some areas around the outside portion of the mane, we will use the midnight black on its own. This will create added contrast and realism to the drawing. Once these areas are activated, you can notice how dark the value becomes. You can also see that the color becomes more transparent as it dries, preventing the black from becoming too strong and overwhelming the drawing. will allow the edges of the mane to fade into the background in this particular image. So a bit more water is added to the brush to create this effect. A few black marks are added to the snout and activated with a bit of water. These marks should be very subtle. We'll also darken up the areas around the eye to give a bit of character to the face of the lion. A heavy application of the color russet is used to create this effect, and then again activated with water. Now we'll extend the color of the mane out a bit further on the right and left side of the picture plane. The color chestnut is used first and then activated with water. We'll allow this application to become looser as it extends away from the focal point of the face. We'll add more water and allow the transition to fade into the background. A bit more chestnut is added to fill in the top portion of the mane, and then again activated with water. And then for some added contrast, we'll add midnight black around the bottom edge of the lion's mane. And then when these areas are activated, the mane really stands out and pops in the image. And then once all the areas in the drawing have been activated to our satisfaction, the drawing is complete. I hope you enjoyed this sketch of a lion using Graphitint pencils.
If you enjoyed this video and you're ready to learn more, why not check out 5 video courses, weekly live instruction, and over 6,280 minutes of art instruction, which includes video courses, downloadable ebooks, weekly live lessons streamed across the internet, and lesson plans for teachers. Just click on the Learn More Now button to start learning today.